Well, welcome back everybody, and welcome to my first official repair video now in my new workshop. It's getting set up. I've got receivers. There's some stuff I need to still work on. I need a table over here. The subject of my other video, the network board, is running strong. Got my computer set up. So anyway, this video was kind of unexpected. I had not expected to be repairing a black plastic home stereo receiver, and it was kind of dropped on me by accident, more or less. So here's what happened. About 2.5, 3 years ago, I was at Costco and I was looking for a receiver that would do surround sound for my home theater setup. And I ended up running across a model that was actually this model, although not this exact receiver. It's a SONY STR-DH720. And before, what happened was I was living in a much smaller apartment, and I didn't really have the space to have, 7.1 channels and all that kind of stuff. And I had another black plastic home stereo receiver that would do surround sound, but it was a little bit less capable. So I ended up giving this one, or this model that I had, to my father for use in their new home stereo surround setup, which it is currently still serving its purpose quite well. And now that we've moved here, I needed another receiver, and the thing I really loved about this receiver when I had mine was that it was incredibly easy to use. It has upscaling from any source, so you can use the component, the composite, S-video, just about anything. It handled 3D, although I don't plan on using that functionality. It's nice to know that it's there, at least for HDMI inputs. The other ones don't support 3D, obviously. But overall, just a really nice receiver, and the other cool thing about it was, if you hook it up to an HDMI, on your display you actually get a GUI to set up with the remote all the different features, so you don't have to try and scroll through these buttons or whatever on the front panel. The front panel shows minimal information, and I think you can do most of the setup if you wanted through the front panel. But I didn't. I liked the nice little GUI on the screen of my TV, which was wonderful. But I started to miss that receiver, and I started looking around for a receiver that was the same or comparable today, and I probably sure could have spent about $500, but I really liked this unit when I had one, and so I went ahead and bought one off eBay that was listed in the listing as working. Fully working, or working normally is what they said. Well, I get it home and I turn it on, and all it says on the display is protect, and I'm not getting the click of the speaker relay. Well, we all know from vintage stuff that protection can be a bunch of different things, but in this case I did not want a project, nor did I want a project I still spent a decent amount of money on. It was better than a new one, but wasn't still, it still cost a decent amount of money. So I contacted the seller, and he basically had me try a few things. I ended up calling Sony's tech support line. Their help was useful enough, but nothing out of the ordinary, mainly trying the receiver without any inputs or outputs connected to it, just the power, to see if it was caused by something either on the input or the output, which did not turn out to be the case. It still was doing it, even with just the power cord connected. So I asked the seller, what do you want me to do next? And he issued me a refund, and never wanted the receiver back, which is fine. I don't know what he's going to do with it. But I figured I would open it up and see if I could see anything to try and fix it. So here it is on the bench. Let's take a look inside and see what we can find. Well, here it is open on the bench, and the thing that strikes me immediately is that there's really not much to this receiver. The heaviest component in it by far is the power transformer, and that's still not that heavy. This thing weighs in a total of about 10 pounds. Although the quality does not seem to be lacking in any particular area. This heatsink is fairly sturdy. It's got a fairly thick plate to it. I've removed an HDMI board and a small power supply board from this connector here, so I could get to the output section, which I believe to be this. There's 7 channels, plus the 0.1 is a non-powered sub-out. It's just a line-level sub-out. That's why they're calling it the 0.1. And you've got an emitter resistor, a dual emitter resistor, and a pair of transistors for each channel, it appears. I don't know which one is which. I'd have to get the schematic. But I think my first order of business is going to be to start testing transistors here in the output section. There's really not much to it. It looks like you've got a dual driver or preamp type driver IC for each channel here. There's 4 of them, which means actually one channel of one of them would not be used, or it's driving the sub out, which is actually probably more likely the case. And then you've got your pair of output transistors. Your emitter resistor, a couple supporting components, some 1/8 watt through-hole resistors, which are pretty rare. And you got 2 very unbeefy supply caps, filter caps. These kind of look like the shrinking has happened on the sides on the label, but it appears that's not the case based on the way these are designed. It does not actually appear to be shrinking. It's just the way the caps are assembled. So I'm gonna actually start testing these output transistors. I did notice when I was trying this receiver out a couple of times I would get a very faint burning smell while I was testing it out from the inside. So there's something, but I don't see any burnt components on here. So I'll try that and see if we can see anything that's out of the ordinary. Well, we found something here that shouldn't be as it is. I've tested all the transistors across this row in circuit with the diode test. The results may be a little bit erroneous in one direction or the other, but they matched on all channels except those 2 there where I've drawn the black X across it with a Sharpie. And those 2, across all pins on those things, read 000 on diode test resistance. Everything is low or just a complete short. Which would explain to me why the protection circuit was stuck on, because you don't want to turn on speaker outputs with that thing going on. So I've done some research and I found out that these transistors aren't super easy to get, but I can get a pair of them that is actually legitimate. They're not fake or counterfeit. So I'm going to have to order those. Looks like it'll be about $10 for the pair, which, considering I was refunded for the defective receiver, may be a worthwhile investment to see if I can get this thing running. So I'm going to go ahead and order those. Well, it's Thursday and my transistors showed up. Probably a little bit earlier than I was expecting because I only ordered them a couple of days ago. I got a MN2488 and an MN1620 there. They also included some heatsink grease, which is nice. I have some, but I took the receiver apart here. You can see there's the front, and then the back and the main board kind of come out together. It seemed like the best way to take it apart. And I was a little bit dismayed when I turned over this circuit board and saw a ton of surface mount components here. And obviously I do not have the tools to deal with surface mount stuff at all. So I'm sincerely hoping that all the surface mount parts are okay, and it's just the main transistors that are bad. But I still can test. My meter can still test these things, so hopefully you can kind of see around each output section there's a grouping of components. Right here, right here, right here. I think it's this one that's bad. I have to flip it over and make sure. You know, you can see the groups of components, so that's kind of neat. But there's only one way to find out, I guess, and that is to actually take it out and see what we've got going. Well, I've discovered another issue, and that is that the emitter resistor, this is the dual emitter resistor for that channel. There's actually 2 resistors inside this casing, both connected to the center pin, 0.22 ohms, 5 watt. And one side of it is bad. I believe it's this right side. So I had to put the project on hold for a few days, and I've ordered in some new emitter resistors. They came in a pack of 10. I work on other audio equipment, and this is a common value, so I'll use them at some point. But I've got this one out. And I've desoldered the transistors, but I haven't actually taken them off the board or mounted them off the heatsink yet, so I'm going to have to do that. Put those in, put the emitter resistor in, and then we'll see what's going on. Well, I've got the receiver pretty much back together. None of the screws are in, but the way it stands on the posts, I should be okay to power it up. Got the new transistors in there. You can see the new resistor down there, right there. So, let's give it a shot. Oh. Plug it in. Alright. Well, I heard that click, and by now it would have gone into protection. I have nothing hooked up to it, obviously, but I like this little source select knob. That's kind of nice. Reminds me of the older stereos I like, which have, you know, the function select. This goes through everything. If I recall correctly, you can actually name these yourself. Because I remember, I think with the receiver I had, I named one phono, and then I had a phono preamp hooked to one of the auxiliary inputs or something like that. And I think you can name them, but I think you have to use the HDMI function. I'm going to finish putting all the screws back in it, because right now the things are kind of just laying on each other. And then I'll actually hook it up to some speakers and see if we can get some sound out of it. Well, I've got the receiver hooked up now to some speakers and plugged in. I've also got it hooked up to this TV. So this is BD, DVD. Oh, this thing cannot focus on the TV apparently. I've got this computer hooked up there. I wanted to demonstrate. Well, let's play some music. I actually still had something up there from what I was listening to earlier. Oh, here's something. That down so I don't get it muted. But I want to demonstrate one other cool thing. The receiver seems to be working just fine. I wanted to demonstrate the on-screen menus. So there I've got my computer showing you could have your DVD player or whatever. I hit the menu button here, and it actually changes to well, of course I can't focus, but it changes to an on-screen display there that you can actually change a bunch of settings in the receiver. There's you can set up tuning, calibration, speaker setup, surround, equalizer, audio, dual mono. You can do a bunch of cool stuff in this menu, and HDMI settings. It's really cool. I must have accidentally hit something that lets me get into the... Oh, that's interesting. Let's turn it off. I accidentally hit about 3 buttons on the remote. Oh. Maybe that's the TV. Sanyo something. Yeah, it's the TV doing that. Let's try this again. I think I might have accidentally hit something on the TV remote. But I haven't tried any of the upscaling features of the receiver yet. Yeah, it was something on the TV actually, not on the receiver, but there it is. Oh, that's sound on the TV. Let's mute that for a second. What you can do is really neat is you go into the menu here, and from this point out it's just going to be talking about the receiver. The repair video is finished. There is a function here, and I want to say it's in this audio thing. No, it's not in the audio thing. HDMI maybe. Here. If you say TV, oh, you can't even read that. There, TV plus amp. That means it'll send the audio signal to the TV as well as playing it out the amplifier. If I change it to just amp, which you can barely see there, amp, then it will not play out of the TV. Even if there's sound, you know, even if the volume is up on the TV, it will not play. So, that's pretty neat. But there it is, receiver, and it's working thus far.